Welcome to another candidate conversation from 25 Women for 2020, co-sponsored by the Progressive Democrats of LaPorte County. Today, we are pleased to have State Senator Karen Tallian with us for an in-depth discussion about marijuana in Indiana. And we also have with us some terrific candidates who are members of our 25 Women for 2020 candidate network. So there's Karen. Okay, and we're going to start then with introductions of our candidates. Okay.
Thanks, Deb. First up, we have Amanda Qualls. Amanda, tell us what district you're in and where can people reach you and send an email to find out more about you.
Yes, I am in State House District 49, which is in Elkhart County. It covers Goshen, Middlebury, and the surrounding rural areas. You can find out more about me at amanda4in.com, and you can email me at campaign@amanda4in.com.
Thanks, Amanda. And next up, we have Belinda. Belinda, tell us about your district and where people can reach you to get to know more about you.
All right. Hi, everybody. It's me, Belinda Drake, candidate for Indiana State Senate in District 32. And that covers the far east and southeast side of Indianapolis. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us via my website. It's belindadrake.com. Thank you.
I hope everyone reaches out to you, Belinda. Thank you. And next up, Kelly, tell us your district and where can people find you?
Hi there. I am Kelly Thompson, and I am running for House District 22, which is Kosciuszko County and a little bit of Elkhart County. And you can reach me at my website, which is kellyforindiana.org, and you can message me there and let me know any concerns or cares that you might have.
Thanks, Kelly. And let's go over to Theresa Bruno. Theresa, tell us your district and where we can find you and reach you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Theresa Bruno, and I'm running for Indiana State Senate District 28. It includes portions of the east side of Indianapolis, all of Hancock, and northern parts of Shelby County. You can reach me at Bruno4Indiana.com, or also on Facebook at Theresa Bruno for Indiana, or send me an email at info@Bruno4Indiana.com.
Thank you so much. And next we have Cinde Wirth. Cinde, tell us your district and where we can find you.
Hi, I'm running for State Senate 44, which is Bartholomew County, the southern part, all of Brown County, the southern part of Monroe County, all of Lawrence County, and the western part of Jackson County. You can reach me at cindeforindiana.com. It's CINDE number 4 Indiana, or hello@cindeforindiana.com.
Cinde, we look forward to hearing more from you in just a bit. And next, Loretta Barnes. Hi, Loretta, tell us your district and where we can find you.
Hello, I'm Loretta Barnes. I am running for state representative in District 13, and that's parts of 8 counties. It's Benton, Jasper, Fountain, Montgomery, Newton, Tippecanoe, Warren, and White counties. So I'm pretty busy, but hello, everyone. Great to see you.
Great to see you. And last, we have Tabitha Bartley rounding out our panelists from 25 Women for 2020. Tabitha, tell us your district and where we can find you.
Yep, so I'm Tabitha Bartley. I'm running for Indiana State Senate in District 7, which covers portions of Boone, Carroll, Clinton, Jasper, Tippecanoe, and all of White County. You can find me. My handle on social media is Bartley for Indiana.
Excellent. Thanks, Tabitha. And all these women will have a lot to talk about in just a minute. Back to you, Deb.
All right. Well, we're going to start with Senator Karen Tallian from Senate District 4. And thank you so much for being here. And we hope that you can give us a good background on the legislative history concerning marijuana in Indiana.
Thanks, Deb. And I just want to say thank you for putting this panel together. It's an important topic. It's a topic that so many people are interested in. And I look forward to working with every one of these candidates in the State House next January. So my name's Karen Tallian, otherwise known as Senator Marijuana. I'm an attorney. in Northwest Indiana. And I started working on this about 10 years ago. I was in court one day and watched one after another, after another, after another, probably, 6 or 8 young people pleading guilty to possession of some small amount of marijuana. And I know that they had all been arrested, booked, gone to jail, posted bail, got an attorney. Now they were in court, maybe for the second time. And I thought, what a tremendous waste of judicial time, police time, and their time and money. And when they got through with it all, they would have a criminal record. So that was about 10 years ago. And I filed my first bill. I think I may have been the first person to mention the word marijuana in the State House. And as soon as I did, all these people would sort of titter on the side and were really surprised that we were going to have this discussion. Some of my good friends told me, be careful, this could come back to bite you. But actually, it's done exactly the opposite. People were ready for this conversation. And just to give you a little background, when I first started doing this, people, and I would go out to meetings, people would come up to me and quietly whisper, hey, I like people who are watching this. So let me just give you a little bit of history. We have managed to make some reforms to marijuana law in the state of Indiana. It is no longer a felony to have possessed small amounts of marijuana. That took a couple, 3 years and buried in the language of one of the versions of 1006, which was the Criminal Justice Reform Bill. We just slipped that in there. In the meantime, we've also talked about farm and hemp products. Farmers growing hemp was another thing that were managed to get in early. And we had the seed commissioner from Purdue University be in charge of a program whereby farmers could grow hemp. That's still in the process, but we're working it out. In the meantime, I started off doing this probably 3 years by myself. And then I started getting other people. So many of you may know Sue Arrington from the House. She started filing bills for medical marijuana. Then, it kept growing. And a couple of years ago, we had 15 different bills having to do with some kind of marijuana reform legislation. So it's becoming a topic. The most conservative members of the General Assembly still don't want to talk about it. I did one year get a hearing in the Criminal Code and Corrections Committee because it was an amendment to another bill that was right on topic. And my committee chairman at that time, Mike Young, said to me, well, you're the ranking member on this committee, and if you get an amendment in on time, my rule is I will hear it. So he heard it, and then every single Republican on the committee voted no. So that's where we stand. In the meantime, so we've had bills on decriminalization. We've had bills for hemp production and distribution. We've had bills about CBD oil, which we had to do twice because they were so nervous the first time that they really messed up the language. We've had bills to legalize. I'm the only one who's ever filed that. And we've had bills for medical. So, it's still a jumble over there, but what's changed is that everybody's talking about it. And what's changed is that over these 10 years, the public opinion to reform marijuana laws is in the 80 percentiles. So I want to hear what all of you candidates are interested in doing. Yeah, let's bring it on. Bring in some new people and bring in some new ideas.
All right, great. Okay, well, we're going to start with Amanda Qualls, who needs to unmute. There we go. All right, Amanda, tell us your plan to deal with marijuana in the legislature.
Yeah, so thank you so much for that intro, Karen, and it ties in really closely with the thing that I want to talk about here. So we all know that the state is in for a big budget crunch over the next few years due to COVID. So let's talk about how much money we're spending prosecuting people and processing them through our systems with marijuana. So I have an awesome policy volunteer from my campaign who has produced a report on marijuana reform, which you can read at amanda4.in/marijuana. So you can go see all of these numbers, but I want to talk about some of them here really quickly. So arrests for possession of marijuana accounted for 45% of all drug arrests in 2018. And according to the Indiana Prosecuting Attorneys Council, there were 24,239 marijuana-related charges in 2019, over 20,000 of which were first-time offenders. So what Karen was talking about there, just seeing person after person come into the system, you can see how these numbers are massive, right? So a little bit more here. Every single person who is arrested for possession has to be processed by a long series of people in the system. And those people in turn must be paid for, right? We must pay the people who are working in this system that we have constructed. And though we are working towards reform, and we can see, having Karen here, that we're making a lot of progress, the arrests right now are still just going up. So in 2016, there were just 14,900 charges for marijuana possession, but that number had skyrocketed to 24,000 by 2019 over just a 3-year period. So you can see we're still like ramping up in charging people with this, even though we're trying to get reform here. I also want to note that 2 years ago, law enforcement officials in Indiana made more marijuana-related arrests than for all violent crimes combined. I just think that that's so unsustainable and not a great use of our law enforcement resources and the money that we're putting into this system. So then let's talk about money. How much does all of this cost, these tens of thousands of arrests and processing them and putting them through the system? We should also talk about the fact that when controlled substances are seized, of which marijuana is one, those drugs themselves have to be processed, leading the Indiana State Police, to whom this task falls, to build additional laboratories. They announced in 2018 that they wanted to build additional labs to handle the 6-month-long backlog. So what does this cost? The cost is more than $30 million annually in taxpayer money. So when we're thinking about what's happening right now with the pandemic, and we're thinking about how we're going to allocate resources in the coming years, I think it's clear that we have to make a change when it comes to marijuana. I personally am in favor of legalization, but I would support decriminalization, finding a way to reduce what we are paying to prosecute these people who shouldn't be prosecuted.
Great, thanks so much, Amanda. And of course, it has to be noted that the racial bias in that criminal justice processing, results in something like a 3.5 times more likely for an African-American person to be arrested than a white person. And so that just really perpetuates that terrible situation. All right, okay, next we're going to go to Belinda. Can you unmute yourself? There we go. All right, and so Belinda, talk to us about what you'd like to do in the state legislature regarding marijuana.
Well, I do want to say thanks again to our Senator Tallian for having this again meaningful conversation. We had a similar conversation just a couple of days ago as our U.S. representatives were trying to decide if we're going to push forward the Morris Act, which has now been postponed until what I know as of this date after the election. So we got to get back to work and get back to advocating for legalization and decriminalization of marijuana in the state of Indiana. And so one thing that I think that a lot of us are saying on this call is that we either want to legalize and or decriminalize marijuana in the state of Indiana. And so what I would like to propose and to work alongside people like Senator Tallian is to be prepared for when that happens. We're going to speak it into existence. It's going to happen here locally and then hopefully at the federal level. And what I would propose is to create the Indiana Marijuana Regulatory Agency. That way, we can go ahead and have a plan to distribute and to just make sure that we're giving people quality cannabis and or marijuana, whether it be for medical or recreational reasons here in the state of Indiana. And this is something that we can go ahead and do now. We don't have to wait. This is something we could be proactive about so that we have a plan to then monitor how the marijuana is made in the state of Indiana, who gets access to it, and then we can have a plan for funneling the funds that come from that so that we can make sure that our kids have access to pre-K. We can make sure that we have an effective law enforcement reform and redirect the funds because we know that 2021, we're going to be faced with some tough decisions in the General Assembly when it comes to the funding. So we go ahead and we get some people elected like myself and everyone else on this phone call to work alongside Senator Tallian and some of the other people pushing for legalization and decriminalization of marijuana in the state of Indiana. We can go ahead and take care of our teachers. We can go ahead and take care of the broken roads, the infrastructure problems we have in the state of Indiana. But what we can do now before it is legalized is to go ahead and start that regulatory agency, which is something I have already talked to Senator Tallian about. And I look forward to doing the work now so that we're prepared to take care of our communities here in the state of Indiana.
Oh, that's terrific. And that's just such a smart idea. We know in other states that has been a real problem, legalizing without the regulatory system in place. So, all right, that's terrific. Okay, thanks. All right, so next we're going to go to Kelly Thompson. Kelly, tell us what you'd like to do about marijuana in Indiana.
Well, I'd like to do a lot of things. First of all, I do want to thank you for having this meeting today. And thank you, Karen, for your tireless work when you had to be really, really brave. You've kind of paved a way here for all of us to have this conversation today. And so much of the change that we're looking for in so many areas starts when someone stays the course very bravely so that others can get brave and come alongside. And so that's what we hope to do with you. I'm going to talk today about the fact that in Indiana, we have over 400,000 veterans. And the signature injury of the last few conflicts that we've asked our veterans to go and risk it all for us in happens to be a combination of post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, and TBI, which is traumatic brain injury, which happens when you're happen to be by a blast, which we know happens when you're in combat. And so when our veterans come home with either PTSD or TBI, or some even with the combination of both, they're faced with some really debilitating situations. They can be pain, anxiety, depression, employment issues, emotional instability, and suicide. In this nation, I don't know if you know, 22 veterans a day take their own lives. And so what do we do to help our veterans? What do we have at our disposal in Indiana right now is a combination of opioids and antidepressants. It's commonly called the combat cocktail. But what are veterans asking us for? They're asking us to try to find a way to make a natural product, to make marijuana available to them. And the day that somebody can show me that marijuana is more dangerous than opioids is the day that I will stop fighting to make this a viable option for our veterans. Because the truth of the matter is, when we prescribe that famous combat cocktail, the suicide rate over doubles if we add in opioid overdoses. I don't know if everybody listening to me today is familiar with the fact that opioids have a really scary side effect in that when we use them to combat pain or anxiety or whatever you're prescribed the medication for, we build up a tolerance, which requires more and more and more in order to get the desired effect. But opioids also affect our breathing centers, and our breathing centers do not develop a tolerance. And so while the patient feels like they need to take more and more in order to get the desired effect, their breathing center becomes overloaded. And so without even feeling high, or without even getting to the point where they feel the effects of the opioids, they can go to sleep and they can never wake up. So in my opinion, what we've done is we've asked our veterans to go overseas and risk it all for us. But when they come home, we continue to ask them to risk it all because of us. And that just doesn't seem fair to me. I think that they should feel safer at home, that they should feel cared for at home, that they should feel heard at home by all of us. And so I think this is something that we need to take a good hard look at and not stop fighting until they get what they're asking for, which is a safe way to treat the symptoms that they're bringing home after risking everything for us.
Thank you, Kelly. That's really powerful. And we need to move on this. We need to move on this.
Yes.
Okay. Next, we're going to go to Theresa Bruno. And Theresa, tell us what your plans are to deal with marijuana.
Hello. First off, I would like to thank Senator Tallian for being here, and and for being brave and talking about this issue, 10 years ago when many of us, I mean, it wasn't even on my radar 10 years ago. And thank you, Kelly, for talking about this issue with, about veterans and the veterans cocktail, and also highlighting, the traumatic brain injury. I kind of want to take a more personal take on marijuana and kind of share my personal story. I actually suffered a traumatic brain injury back in March 28th, 2017. I had a brain aneurysm rupture in my brain. I should be dead, honestly. I had less than a 50% chance of living. I had a less than 25% chance of really just, I guess, being normal again. And, when your brain has a bad injury, it takes a long time to heal, and there's a lot of pain and there's a lot of anxiety to go with it. And I remember back pre-2017, I was totally against like marijuana at all. Like, I didn't want it to have any medical marijuana. I was like, I was very much, it's a drug, don't do drugs, it's bad. And then, I kind of had a revelation, after, I had, the brain aneurysm rupture in my head, and, having brain surgery, having a traumatic brain injury, I mean, you have a headache for about 6 months, just straight. And I mean, sometimes the headache's not so bad. And then other times it's like on a scale of 1 to 10, it's like a 20. And they just give you opioids. And my body does not handle opioids very well at all. They make me heavily anxious. And I remember thinking to myself, gosh, I really wish there was something else, that I could use to help my pain. I would use towards, and even to this day, I still have to take like pain medicine every day. I take a combination of, I take Tylenol, 2 Tylenol a day, and some CBD oil to make sure I don't get headaches, because I'm very prone to headaches now. And I remember just, recovering from that and wishing that there was something else out there that could have helped me, get over this pain, and also to help me with anxiety, because trust me, when you almost die, you are a very anxious person afterwards. So that was really a transforming experience. And, while I was, recovering, laying in bed, I did a lot of research, and, I discovered, CBD oil, which is made from industrial hemp. It's a cousin of marijuana. It's not it doesn't have it's very low THC amount. And at the time I was researching it, it was using CBD oil, even though it has little to no THC. In other words, it can't make you high at all. The legality of it was kind of questionable. And I was like, you know what? I'm in a lot of pain. I don't care if the legality was questionable. But yeah, and and I've also, done more research on marijuana, and, there is, promising studies out there that it can help, with, pain after surgery, and also long-term and chronic pain. And I'm not the only person out there that's suffering from chronic long-term pain. I'm on the campaign trail, and I hear a lot of people's medical stories. People have cancer, people have arthritis, people have pain, and the current pain medicines that we have are not adequate. So when I become, the next state senator for State Senate District 28, I'm going to push for definitely medical marijuana and decriminalization, because people deserve good pain options and also good options for controlling their anxiety.
Great.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Theresa. It is so important to have people in the legislature who have these experiences, these personal experiences. Okay, next we're going to go to Cinde Wirth. So Cinde, tell us what you'd like to do about marijuana in Indiana.
Thank you, Deb and Shannon, for hosting, and Senator Tallian for all of your legendary work. Again, I'm Cinde Wirth, running for State Senate 44 in Southern Indiana. Theresa, thank you also for sharing your insightful and inspiring story. I'm a scientist, so about a decade ago, a friend related how much marijuana and CBD oil and THC helped their child's seizures. So at that point, I started looking into the research on medical marijuana. I didn't really know much about it before, other than the side of industrial hemp and how it changed over the course of from our country's beginning until now. But the interest in cannabis for medicinal uses is not new, and it's been used for centuries, with written records describing medicinal uses as far back as 2800 BC, and archaeological evidence of use even longer than that. So in the US at the turn of the century, cannabis was the third leading active ingredient in all of the patented medicines available for patients in the US. So why have so many people been arrested for this natural medicine? As Amanda was telling us, and Belinda, in 1972, with a bold move rooted in blatant racism and against the anti-war movement, cannabis was placed on the list of controlled substances by a false claim that it had no medical value and a high potential for abuse. So our current heightened renewed interest in using cannabis as a therapeutic medicine is not only for how effective it is, but also because of its low level of toxicity. So according to Gregory Carter, an MD in Washington State, lethal doses in humans has not been described. And he means described in the literature or the published research papers. So this is something that, in light of Indiana's current opioid epidemic, we can't ignore it. And Senator Tallian's work is just legendary to bring this forth for Hoosier patients and doctors. There are very few highly effective therapeutic medicines, including over-the-counter remedies, with this high degree of safety from the low level of toxicity. So what he's saying is that overdose just really is literally impossible. So what does the research say about it helping people like Theresa and other people like my friend whose child had seizure disorders? According to the National Institutes of Health, the National Academy of Sciences Institute of Medicine, and the US FDA, they've all issued statements calling for further investigation into the therapeutic use of cannabis. There's published scientific research on all of this for more than a dozen diseases, including Alzheimer's, ALS, diabetes, hepatitis C, and no evidence of negative side effects of any of these so far. A paper on the study of multiple sclerosis and how cannabis will slow the degeneration of the nervous system that defines this disease was published in 2003 by the UK journal Brain, which covers clinical neurology and neuroscience. There are many international medical journals that have published on cannabis use to treat epilepsy and other neurological conditions that have been going on for decades. Even cartilage tissue, which is a difficult tissue to work with because it has no blood vessels to support growth, has cannabinoid receptors, making cannabis a prime therapeutic agent to treat osteoarthritis and other forms of arthritis. But studies on the therapeutic effects of cannabis have had to rely on synthetic chemicals made by cannabis plants because of the stranglehold the FDA and the being placed on the schedule of controlled substances that the US has on cannabinoids. So outside of a select few participating researchers who are participating in federally supervised programs, clinical researchers in the US remain prohibited from studying the efficacy and the safety of our modern cannabis products, which are completely different from the cannabis products from years ago because of the legal problems. So with medical marijuana and possibly other marijuana, recreational marijuana legalized in Indiana, the push for more research into the safety and efficacy of modern cannabis from our local dispensaries and our local production facilities would expand the treatment for many patients in many conditions. So Hoosiers facing debilitating medical conditions would have better access to relief and more current research to support it, and physicians would have an alternative to high-powered addictive drugs with adverse side effects. So when I'm elected into the state legislature, I want to be able to give Hoosier patients, doctors, and researchers what they need to access the treatments and relief that they can find in other states, but not currently in Indiana.
That's great, Cinde. And it'd be also awesome to have a terrific scientist like you in our state legislature. Okay, next we're going to move to Loretta Barnes from House District 13. Loretta, tell us your plans to deal with marijuana in Indiana.
Hi, everyone. First, I'd like to say thank you to Senator Tallian for being here with us this evening. We're having very important discussions. I would like to discuss how it just makes sense for Indiana's economy and for our environment to expand hemp production. First, when you look at farming, industrial hemp gives small farmers an opportunity to succeed. Hemp grows faster. It's a 80 to 120 day crop. If you look at the struggles of soybean and corn due to tariffs over the recent years, hemp's a good alternative money source, and it's a less expensive soy substitute. Hemp also supports sustainable farming. So it removes excess nitrogen fertilizer from the fields. It provides shade and shades out weeds. And the roots help prevent soil erosion. It provides a richer soil for greater crop yield and regenerates the soil between harvests. So it's a good rotation crop. It uses little water and it saves farmers money on irrigation. It's versatile in the market. It has thousands of uses for its seed, the oil, and the fiber. Nothing goes to waste. It generates more product with less space. So if you have a small farm, you get more product with less space. So 1 acre of hemp produces as much fiber as 2 to 3 acres of cotton, and as much fiber as 2 to 4 acres of trees. So hemp has the potential to bring more manufacturing and processing jobs to Indiana. So I would like to see us expand our hemp production in Indiana for farming and because it's good for the environment. So hemp doesn't require herbicides or pesticides to grow. So that's good for the soil, good for the environment, good for humans. It pulls more carbon dioxide out of the air than trees do, and it grows faster. Hemp absorbs toxic metals from the ground, and it provides a habitat for wildlife. Technically, hemp could replace trees as the primary source of material for paper. One of the most toxic chemicals that comes out of paper mills is dioxin. It's a very deadly chemical. When you use hemp in paper mills, it takes less chemicals to pulp, so there's less dioxin emission released into the atmosphere. And since hemp removes excess nitrogen, it reduces agricultural runoff problems. And it's very recyclable produces a low-cost bio-based fuel and bio-based plastic that's recyclable. And it's less expensive to produce. So there's a lot more research that has to be done regarding all the benefits of growing hemp. But I think that it's very important that Indiana step up to be a leader in that research, to help our farmers, to help our manufacturing, and to help our state economy and environment, of course. I'd like to thank everyone, and I'd like to be in the state legislature so I can help expand this product that is good for the environment and good for Indiana.
Oh, that's terrific, Loretta. And farmers are lucky to have a great advocate like you. And you're going to do a great job for farmers in the legislature. Thanks. Okay, and next we're going to move to Tabitha Bartley. So Tabitha, tell us how you are going to work to improve our relationship with marijuana.
Yes, thank you again for having me and for having this panel discussion, and Senator Tallian for being here. I'm running for Indiana State Senate in District 7, which covers portions of Boone, Carroll, Clinton, Jasper, Tippecanoe, and all of White County. I'm glad to be here with all these amazing women, and I wanted to talk about kind of where we go once it is legalized, because I think it's going to be legalized and it needs to be legalized in Indiana. My time in the Marine Corps taught me very much how to be innovative and how to be proactive. And that's how I see cannabis, and that's how I see we need to approach it. Not only can it impact so many of the issues we're facing, from our public education system to needing justice reform, it could help our economy, and it could help the people who live here. So specifically in my district, we have the infrastructure to support cannabis. As kind of Indiana being the crossroads of America, we can utilize that and utilize the infrastructure we have to grow and produce cannabis products and create jobs and create careers for people. And I think a portion of the taxation that we have on it once it is legalized needs to go to making sure that that stays local to Indiana. These products are grown here, that these products are made here, that these products are shipped from here. I believe that Indiana can get to the point of being innovative and being proactive instead of reactive to everything. You know, we've had multiple conversations on different subjects, and it tends to be that we are having to be reactive to what's already happening in Indiana. And I think we need to start looking beyond that. Once we get it and once we pass it, what are we going to do? And cannabis is kind of the perfect medium that we can start being innovative with, and we can start being known for, and creating all these products and these jobs. And so that's what I wanted to talk about. I think that kind of covers a little bit of what everybody talked about tonight. I will also be talking tomorrow with Indiana Normal, which is a great organization that is proactive in changing the perception of cannabis, tomorrow. And I'm just glad that I got to be a part of this conversation with these amazing women tonight.
All right. All right. Well, thank you, Tabitha. Okay, so I want to go back then to Karen. And Karen, we would love it if you would just try to give us some kind of a responsive comments about everything you've heard tonight, and where you think we can go from here.
Well, thank you. You know, you guys all had it down. I mean, you all had an issue that we have seen going on. For example, Loretta, you talked about hemp production and farmers. You're absolutely right. Indiana could be a leader in agricultural hemp. But you know what? That goes back to what Belinda said. We need a regulatory agency. You know, right now farmers think that they're allowed to grow hemp, and other people are building distilleries and distribution systems, but really nobody's quite sure exactly what's legal and what's not, and there's nobody in charge. I myself have filed a bill for a cannabis compliance commission several years in a row, so that's a really good topic. Also, all of you who have talked about the medical and the opioid, you know, there's a lot of work out there that suggests that marijuana might be a really good step down drug for getting out of opioid addiction. And Cinde, you gave us a lot of information. I have a 400-page volume in my office. That was the study. It was like a compendium of all the studies that have been done on marijuana by the National Institute of Health. And none of them suggest that marijuana is in any way addictive. And in fact, that there are a lot of other beneficial uses. Theresa, you know, nobody can top that story. That's pretty amazing. But you know, we know that all of these issues are there. I really want all of you to come to the legislature and help work on these issues. I will just say that I know all the people that you all are running against, and none of them have ever stepped up to take on this issue. In fact, they've gone the other way. And who was it? Amanda, when you said that, you know, I learned something tonight. The last number that I heard from the prosecutors was 22,000 arrests. When I started this, the number was about 12,000. Now you're telling me it's 24 as of 2019. That's double what it was when I started this. We have doubled the number of arrests in the 10 years, and we're going backwards, while states all over the union are expanding their use and reforming their medical laws, and we're moving in the wrong direction. So all of you, I hope every one of you comes to the State House, and you know, it would be a really great showing that this is an issue that the public cares about on a number of different levels. So thanks for running. It takes courage. You keep getting out there. Want to see you all in Indianapolis.
All right, well, great. Well, thank you so much, Karen. And so I just want to close out with my usual get out the vote plea. So October 5th is zooming right up. And so that is the last day that people will be able to register to vote. So please, please, please go to indianavoters.com and register if you're not registered. If you think you are registered, go to indianavoters.com and check. Sometimes you get purged without really knowing it. So everyone really needs to go to indianavoters.com and check their registration. Please find everybody you know and make sure that they are also registered and that they get on there before October 5th. You can also find out where your early voting site is on that same website, indianavoters.com. You can still request an absentee ballot if you are eligible from that same website. And you can find out who's on the ballot. So this is a great place to go to find out everything you need to know. Starting October 6th, then it will be over. And then for all the registered voters, it will be time to early vote. And you will need to find your location. Every county is different, and some are still deciding where. So please pay attention to that website to find out how you can best vote. This is so important. This is I know everyone says it all the time, but this is the most important election of our lifetimes. Okay, I am going to send it now to Shannon, our strategy director at 25 Women for 2020, to close us out. Thank you all so much.
Thanks, Deb, and thanks to all the panelists for putting forth research-based and common sense plans to address cannabis and hemp here in Indiana. That ties into our belief at 25 Women for 2020 of an innovative, prosperous, and equitable future for all. I believe that you believe in that too, but what we need to do is get these women elected and send them to Indianapolis so they can help Senator here in Tallian out with this initiative. So please go to 25womenfor2020.org. All panelists will be there. Just one click and you can find out their social media and emails to inbox them and get involved. The way to make a difference in this most important election of all time is to get involved. That is through a donation and investment in campaigns, and that is through volunteering. These women are ready to get you busy and turn that angst into action. Thanks everyone for coming out tonight. Go to indianavoters.com, get registered, then check us out at 25womenfor2020.org. Have a great night.
All right, there we all are. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Good job.
Thank you. You too.